Ye, all of you, Parishaha of the sacrifice, Bhāgavatam, entitled to share, Paraduhu, have excluded, Prasadayatvam, all of you should satisfy, Parishuddhachetasaha, without mental reservation, Kshipra prasadam, quick mercy. Prasada means mercy, Kshipra means quick mercy. Pragrihita, Angripatman, his lotus feet having been taken shelter of. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charnavrinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. We have excluded Lord Shiva from taking part in the sacrificial results, and therefore you are all offenders at His lotus feet. Still, if you go without mental reservation and surrender unto Him and fall down at His lotus feet, He will be very pleased. Purport. Lord Shiva, also called Ashutosh. Ashu means very soon, and Tosh means to become pleased. The demigods were advised to go to Lord Shiva and beg his pardon, because he is very easily pleased. It was certain that their purpose would be served. Lord Brahma knew the mind of Lord Shiva very well, and he was confident that the demigods who were offenders at his lotus feet could mitigate their offenses by going to him and surrendering without reservation. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Shakshurumlitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopi Kakanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevasha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnumaraya Krishna Pishta Bhutale Shrimati Karambakhanana Samiti Namani Namo Vishnumaraya Krishna Pishta Bhutale Guru Dasya Advaita Samiti Namani Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pishta Bhutale Śrīmati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskachari Deshatharine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we're hearing here especially of one word and one topic. It's called surrender. And if we surrender, Prabhu, can you sit here? Then I don't need to turn so much. As need to look everywhere. Thank you. Yeah, that's easier. So surrender, and this surrender is the prerequisite, the only qualification they need to please Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva can become very easily angry and very easily satisfied. So it's amazing that he could be pleased by the demigods, as we see later on, just by their prayers. Even though basically they offended him and especially his wife because she committed suicide. It's amazing, If somebody would say, please forgive me, your wife committed suicide, I wouldn't forgive him. No, it wouldn't be so easy. But she was so generous and so forgiving that he says, no problem, I'm able to forgive you. So this is a sign of a great personality. Sometimes we might think that we are powerful and strong if we don't forgive. And if we forgive, it's a sign of weakness. isn't it? You think like, if I forgive, you think people will take care, will use me. But it's not the case. If you're actually a great saintly person, if you forgive, that's a sign that you are very confident in yourself, that you don't take yourself so seriously, and that you're aloof from this topic. So Shiva understood, one way or other, Sati, she will come again. She took birth again and became his wife. So it's no problem. The soul is eternal, material world is flowing. So he was very easily satisfied. This is amazing quality. A quality of a great personality. So we as devotees of Lord Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is known to be very magnanimous, very, very generous. Magnanimous is a word that you say like it's giving a lot. So it's not without any reservation, he is giving. So as followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we should be in the same mood of giving without asking anything in return. Especially one thing. That is respect. What did you think? Yeah, you should forgive. But especially we should not ask for any forgiveness or any respect in return. They will say, yes, please, oh sir, forgive me. I offended you. No, even though don't need to ask. How do you come to the idea that I have the right to become offended? So this is the sign of a great personality, that he is not asking for any respect. As in the verse of Shikshastakam, Trinadapi sunichana taroriba sahishana amani nam hadanina kirtaniya sadahari. So one should chant the holy names of the Lord in the humble state of mind. Thinking myself lower than the straw on the street, being more tolerant than a tree. So a tree is being cut down, his branches are broken, but he's still standing there. It's not retaliating, it's beating you, like you're beating. Imagine a branch just hitting you. Like, you fool. No, trees are not doing that. They're very generous. And more tolerant than a tree, always ready to offer all respect to others and expecting none in return. And so this very last sentence, expecting none in return, is very important. Because if we don't expect any honor, then we cannot be angered. It's only our attachment, though, to the ideal that we think we are. I have this title, Chief Executive Officer, CEO. Then I say like, wow, I'm so proud, I wear this, and somebody offends this badge, I'm going to punish you. So this is not the attitude and the mood of a person. The mood and attitude of a person, of a saintly person, of a sadhu, of a sadhika, who we are aspiring to become a sadhu, we are trying to become pure Vaishnavas. Our attitude should be to not at all consider ourselves so important to be offended. We are not important. Prahlad Maharaj was not offended that his father was trying to kill him. Still he was very sweet to his father. Still he was very kind to him. He was not like, Father, I don't talk to you anymore. No, he was very respectful. When Prahlad Maharaj was asked from his father, what is the best thing you learned in school? He answered very nicely. So the devotees are very generous. They don't ask something in return. And sometimes in this material world, we enter in this relationship of making deals. You respect me, I respect you. If you don't respect me, I don't respect you. So this is very selfish, because it's only centered around us actually. Only if my purposes are served, then I will respect others. So what is the remedy of giving up all of this, asking for respect? One thing is that we understand what is our real position. I'm not the badge that I carry. I'm not this and that person. I'm not that senior to this junior. Who am I? We are all aspiring. And if you see the position that great sadhus take, it's actually they become lower than everybody else. That's a sign of an Uttamadhikari. Like I say, Krishnadas Kaviraj, he says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm lower than a worm in the stool. And when he's saying that, he's He's not thinking, oh, I'm just imagining. But he's really considering himself very humble. Because the more you understand things, you realize the whole scope of it. You just see the whole thing like, oh my goodness, who am I? What can I actually serve the Lord? If you see the bhakti, the surrender of Srila Prabhupada, the surrender of the great devotees, of the gopis whom you read in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, then you become like a little mosquito. And you try to approach the Lord and say like, oh my goodness, who am I? I'm trying just like to serve a little bit. And but if you're an ego, it's like, yes, I'm serving the Lord, or making arati. I'm serving the Lord, and then actually you don't see the deity, you just see the pujari, So sometimes our ego might be like that, whatever situation. I'm cooking for the Lord. I am cooking. It's me. Today I'm cooking something very special. Or I'm cleaning the floor. And did you notice the ego is so expert in manipulating you that you think like whatever you do is so special. You just might be, I don't know, peeling the peas, or you might be doing any small service and you think like, you're so important. The whole universe is depending upon you. If you would not do it, what would happen then? Yes. So this is the ego. He thinks, I am so important. It's so important what I am doing. But let me tell you something. The only thing that matters for you is actually your devotion with which you're actually doing it. The action is not relevant at all. Things will happen, As they will happen, they will manifest. Especially here in the temple, you can see. If you don't want to wash the pots, somebody else will come and wash the pots. They will be angry at you, of course, that you didn't wash it. But it will happen. Nothing is depending upon you. Things will continue on. And so, if we see that things are continuing on also without you, then you must see that it's only your opportunity. You have the privilege to be able to be part of it or to be not part of it. And it's like a wave. You can ride on the wave or you can just let the wave pass. Those, I don't know, tried a little surfing. I tried once surfing. You must catch the waves, you must stand on the thing and then the wave is there. You stand on it and you ride along with it. But if you wait too long, and then it will just pass. So, in a similar way, the action is not important. It's not at all important. Might happen, you might do it, you might even miss the wave. But just being on the board and trying to serve the Lord, trying to please the Lord with your devotional attitude, that is most pleasing for the Lord. And that is where you're making advancement. And this is the secret of not overdoing your own ego, thinking you're so important. Because you see the irrelevance in one way of your actions. You see what relevance do my actions have in this world? Because the world is like a river, it's passing. Last time I spoke about time. Time, it's passing. Things are passing. Nothing exists. Things are passing. We're not like in 100 years, who's going to remember that, okay, Mr. XY said he built a house and then he built a whole empire of a business and took care of everything. Nobody will remember. Who cares? Even Alexander the Great, we talk about him in the books, but in the end, who cares about him? So it's like, you might be such a great person, done so much, but in the end, it's like a version of the Bhumi Gita and the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, where Mother Earth is saying, so many have walked on top of me, claimed me as their property, and thought they're so great, but to dust they have fallen. Only names remain to be remembered. So in the end, we have a list of names. What is the meaning of it for us? And even if you're lucky, we remember the names. We don't know the personality itself. So we can see our actions are not relevant. Our devotion is relevant. And of course, if we do it with devotion, you cannot just clean the mirrors and make them dirty again, It's not. If you do something with real devotion and surrender, you make actually the action very nice and beautiful. Then it becomes perfect. Even materially seen, it becomes perfect. Because you put your heart into it. Your heart, not only for the action, but to please the Lord. Like when we cook prasadam, we're not tasting it. But we're putting our heart into it and it's coming out. It's manifesting. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. So it is manifesting. The Supreme Lord is manifesting, and Srimati Radharani is helping us to serve the Lord. Whatever action we do, Srimati Radharani is helping to actually perform the service. The internal energy takes over our actions. It's not anymore our action. If we do it with devotion, you feel like an energy surcharging you to execute this action. Because you're not trying to satisfy yourself or your ego, you're trying to satisfy Krishna, and then you become empowered. That's what Srila Prabhupada was. He was empowered because he wanted to serve. He didn't want to. He gave up everything. He did the leap of faith. He went on the ship and said like, okay, Krishna, I'm yours. I cannot really. I don't know what I'm doing, but if it should happen, it should happen. I just give it a try. So he was completely surrendered. So if we surrender, the magic can happen. Krishna can take over. But if we hold on to it very tightly, egoistically, then we will lose more than we will gain. This is often the point, that we actually are very attached to many things. But the funny thing is, the more we are attached to it, we want to control it and hold on to it, the more we will lose it. Attachment is such a tricky matter. It's in the mind. Like I was listening to a professor talking about psychology, and he was talking about the psychology of reappraisal. And reappraisal is an emotional issue, but the main topic is that you understand your emotions by understanding that they're not emotions are resulting from observations. So the main thing is you observe something, it becomes processed by the senses, and the senses then evaluate the experience. And reappraisal means that you change your attitude towards this actions, this observance. So in a similar way, we observe many things. We do devotional activities. So we see, we observe the things that are happening, but only our attitude, how we see them, this we must change. Because this is emotions, is the reaction to what happened around us, to the observance that we have. It's not something that we cannot control in some way. It's our attitude, how we react to it. Same thing. Like you see somebody falling on the street, you can react in different ways. You can try to help him. You can just try to ignore him because he's young, no problem, just walk on. Or you can have like fear coming up. Like if I see my son, if he's falling down or he's hurting myself, like I get very emotional. Stop! No, the emotions are very strong. So, in a similar way, if we observe ourselves, if we observe our surroundings, and we have conscious emotions, we have emotions for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then actually those emotions can become very transcendental. They can elevate us instead of dragging us down. This is very important, that we don't become taken away by this emotion of pride, that we think like, I cannot control my pride, I'm just becoming proud. It's not my fault. It's just coming. But it's actually your understanding of reacting to the situation. And therefore it's like important to have good knowledge, and the Bhagavad Gita talks about it. That if a person with knowledge, he can see things as they are. So if we see things as they are, we don't have any reason to become proud. Therefore, an educated person is very proud. And if you see somebody bragging, this and this, you understand, like, he does not know very much, he's just like, has a big voice. So in a similar way, we can always be more humble than we are already now. And there is no mistake or no fault in it. And I said before, sometimes we are afraid to surrender, or to not to surrender, but to forgive, because we think we're being hurt. But it's only because we have some pride in us. We have some, and this pride is hindering us. there's only one pride we can have, and it's to be Krishna Das. Krishna Anu Das, 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 Das. That we're the servants of the servants of the servants of the servants. And this is our pride. We have the pride that Prabhupada brought these books to us. We have the pride that we can have this knowledge. That's amazing. So we cherish it. We hold it very much to our heart. So this is very, very deep. So we should focus all our emotions, all our real pride, or this, because we have this inherent. We cannot be emotionless, that we observe things and we analyze them. No, but we should try to develop positive emotions in relationship to Krishna. That we say, these emotions, we're giving it to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm feeling, when I'm chanting, I'm chanting actually. I'm not feeling something else. I'm not feeling how I'm feeling. I'm not feeling how things are happening around me, or how am I doing. So this is very important, that we see how actually we can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead with our attitude and not our actions. So are there any questions or comments on this point? Yeah, Sanjay?
Also es ist halt so ein Gedanke, den ich hatte. Ich habe das demnächst gelesen und das ist einfach, also es ist so waghalsig auf eine gewisse Weise. Vielleicht kannst du darüber noch ein bisschen
Sanjay's
sprechen.
question is it not even, sag mal, leichtsinnig kann man übersetzen? Ja, oder wie kann man das übersetzen?
It seems to be so risky that Srila Prabhupada just went on that boat as an old man, and then on the journey he even had 2 heart attacks. So one might say that he took all his books, he went on the ship, and if he would have died, then
would have been the use. Yeah,
there would have been,
was quite daring.
Yes, it was so risky actually.
But that's the amazing thing. If we take risks for Krishna, I mean, it's not that he's jumping off the bridge and saying like Krishna will bring me to America or something, you know. It's not. So he had a strategy. So that was the only possibility at this time. Okay, a flight, but a flight is like very expensive. He couldn't afford it. But that was his only possibility. It was the last window of opportunity before it's like, I'm getting old, and there's a possibility I can go on that ship and go to America and try to preach. So that's my possibility where I can try to fulfill. At least I can try it. And so this the surrender to that situation, where sometimes it might be uncomfortable, it's actually where magical things happen. If we're attached to our comforts, that's always like comfort zone. It's like we remain static. We don't become ecstatic. We don't advance in our qualities and our possibilities. But once we go into the stretching zone, it's called stretching zone. We like do the little extras which are a little uncomfortable. Then it becomes very nice, and you experience adventures in spiritual life. So therefore, it's good to have sometimes this times in life where you do something extra. You spend a year in the temple. You do somebody asks you to help you with the Rath Yatra. You do some extra service to set up the Rath Yatra very nicely. Somebody asks you to do something. You do the little extra which is uncomfortable, but you do it anyways because it's for Krishna, it's not for you. And then you become empowered. Because it's something which is selfless, a selfless action. But not only that, it's for the pleasure of Krishna. And it's so satisfying. If you chant nice rounds, just like if you take the leap of faith, it's actually also even every day when you chant, it's a leap of faith to let go of your mind and say, let's just focus on the Maha Mantra. There's nothing else important enough to focus our minds on the holy name. And if you actually really internalize this point that we say, okay, we just focus on the holy name, we can experience magic. But we must just let go of our mind and the attachment of our minds of wanting to think about this and that. And it goes like in the train very quickly. Once you jump on the train, you're like taking away. So you must bring back the mind and take the risk. It's a little risky. The mind is a little afraid to let go of it. We're a little afraid of it. But also in general, be ready to do something new. Experience something for the Lord. It's very nice. I don't think anybody has had a bad experience doing it. Any more questions? Yes?
So previously you talk about emotions that stems from the senses getting in contact with the object of the senses, yeah?
Yeah.
So can you elaborate maybe on the difference, or if there is any difference also with more internal emotions, like, I don't know, compassion, that I consider more kind of like spiritual, humility, tolerance. So do they also come about with the object of the senses, or is there another dynamic? Or?
So shall we go into psychology, yes?
Yes.
We turn this into a psychology class now. So it's very interesting because when I heard to listen to this lecture from this professor, he was a Stanford professor, they made a big research during Corona using this reappraisal. And it's very interesting because they just name it different, but the same thing is in the Bhagavad Gita, where you say, okay, you have the object, the senses, and the mind is observing the objects, and then it creates attachment, emotion. And it's the same thing as the guy in Stanford is talking about, researching like hundreds of thousands of people and investing so much money. After many years of research, they come to the same point. So it's very interesting that so much detailed knowledge about the psychological constitution of the soul is actually in the Bhagavad Gita. If you read inside and try to have these classes to understand yourself and understand the personality, then you can get lots of knowledge. So very interesting is that the mind, it's that he's stealing the qualities and activities of the soul. In a way that he's taking the feathers, basically, of the soul, which is thinking, feeling, and one more, I forgot the last one. Willing, yes. So there's the willing to desire, this intense will, thinking and feeling. So actually these are the qualities of the soul. You're actually doing it. But the mind takes that and he's so destructive. He's distracting you so much from yourself that you're actually looking at this mind, it's like, wow. Just imagine yourself, you're inside your mind, inside your body or the soul, and then seeing the mind and observing the mind, he becomes so attached to his mind. Because actually if you die, you go with your subtle body. It means you take your mind and all your veshas and many impressions, samskaras that you have, to the next body. It all comes along in the package, boom. And then you always take, as long as you're in the material world, even if you go up to Brahmaloka, it becomes more subtle, but still many of these layers are there. It says in Brahmaloka, you have only the layer of intelligence. Remaining is pure intelligence, a body made of pure intelligence. But usually it's still, even the dynamic becomes more subtle, but you're always stuck with this subtle body, the mind, which you're identifying so much with. So as long as you're in material world, still you're like, there's this mind there. And the psychology is that the mind is so beautiful, and the mind has so many activities, and we are attached to experiencing the mind. This is the attachment of the soul, and this is called false ego. So this wrong understanding, it's not like something very hard or physical, it's just a wrong understanding. That's like ahankara. The ego that we actually attach to doing things. And then we have the bird, and the bird has these feathers, and then he's observing through the senses. He's seeing, I'm hearing something, I'm smelling something, and so beautiful, and he's making so many nice noises and beautiful thoughts, and then you're like, oh wow, that's me. So what happens if you start approaching spiritual life is that the mind, the soul is kind of like, oh, there is something very special I didn't experience for a long time. Because since time immemorial, we have been stuck in this material world and following our mind, it's dancing like this funny bird inside us. And then you say, oh wow, there's something which is very, very satisfying. And you feel it, it's like the soul is in a slumbering state. It's drowsy, it's like, wow, what's happening here? So it gets spiritual knowledge, it's like, wow, it's so nice, it's satisfying to the soul, so the soul is like kind of awakening. And then if you have spiritual emotions, then you have actually emotions from the soul coming, shining through the mind, and actually shining through your whole consciousness. To become actually aware that you're chanting, or that and you have glimpses of that sometimes, where this, when the sun rises, especially here, when sunrise come in, it's like, so you have glimpses of what is the soul like. But usually we're just stuck with the mind. And that's the secret to develop the spiritual emotions, which are not easy to create, to fire them. We need to fire them. We need to fire the spark, because it's like very dormant. And then we are very much distracted again by the bird, and we're like, wow. It actually can be like a television, you know. You have sometimes you're watching television, and you're so like into it. It's said that psychologically, even when you're watching television, you become to the alpha state. It means that you just like accept whatever comes in there. You're like, whoa. But then if somebody takes you out, and you're like, whoa, my goodness, what's happening? So in the same way, like we're in this material world, and we're like stepping back a little bit and seeing what's happening. So, but still, like the interesting thing, if we come into sattva guna, most people, the spiritualists, they only come to the level where they can purify the mind, where they have live in a spiritual atmosphere, which is very nice, which is conducive to good material life, but which is not necessarily spiritual. They call it spiritual, but it's pseudo-spiritualism, because it just feels good. You know, it's like a psychological spa, I would call it. No? It's a psychological spa. You're very nicely relaxed, you feel good, you're detached, you're forgiving. So this is very nice. But this is not spiritual. Spiritual is actually the soul when he surrenders unto Krishna, when he feels compassion, when he feels humility, and he's really just expressing his devotion. And that's completely another level. It goes a deeper level, because just feeling nice and good and being a good person, it's a little superficial in the end. It's also quite selfish, because you feel good with it. So that's very interesting that the soul is actually starting, and then one point, therefore say, so the liberated person, he is within this world, but he's not within this world. He has a completely spiritual body. He's not entangled by this material covering, even though he might be acting like you have a body. Everybody's like bound to this body, but still within the soul has awakened, and he's happy. So he still might be fighting this material world with this and that thing, but what's the use? You know, he's like completely focused on Krishna. There's nothing else. And so that's very interesting. If you have depression or other things, it all comes about from the psychology of the mind, which has some attachment to matter. But the more we actually connect to the real soul, there is nothing like that. Depression, and there's so many problems which we might have. But also it might be like a disease. If you have real problems, then you also might need to get professional help to get you over this, because this attachment or this misunderstanding can be very, very strong. But we should understand that's just like an attachment of the mind. It's not the real you. That's the first step, always to disidentify with it. It's not you. You're Krishna Das. So like if somebody asked, always on the street, was funny, some people ask me like, are you self-realized? I was distributing books. Are you self-realized? Did you attain it? Did you read the books? So tell me, are you self-realized? I was like, and then I thought like, what does it mean in our in Bhakti philosophy to be self-realized? We have so many layers of it. You know, first is, I'm not this body. That's the first self-realization. Second self-realization is, I'm a soul. And third one is, I'm not only a soul, I'm a servant of Krishna. And not only that, then the next one is, what is my eternal Swarup? What is my form in the spiritual world? And that's like, whoa, so far behind. But most people, when they ask, are you self-realized? They mean that you understand you're the soul. But most, we are not at this point, but we are striving for it. But we understand that we are not a body. Philosophically, all of us, I think, can agree that we understand we're not this body. So that's the first principle of spiritual life, which, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, you actually understand very quickly. And Prabhupada hammers it on you. He knows, like, you're not this body, you're not this body, you're not this body. Yeah. So that's the psychology and the stages of self-realization that we can have. And we might not be completely like if you understand actually the soul and not only have self-realization of the soul, but actually you can act on the platform of the soul. It's that the soul is same as powerful as Lord Brahma. It's shining like millions of suns. So it's very, very powerful. There's no, you have, it's illuminated with knowledge. It's power. There's nothing which you cannot understand or nothing which is beyond your knowledge, because you yourself realize you're the soul. You're in connection with Krishna. So that's a very, very strong point. But we are on the level, and usually when as bhaktas, what I see, what we can expect like from other senior ISKCON devotees, is they don't go so deep into I'm the soul. They go directly, or we generally go directly to, okay, I'm the servant of Krishna and I want to please him. And we just meditate on the pastimes of the Lord and become attached to them. And this is our focus. I'm not this body, and then we go to the pastimes of Krishna to entangle our mind in these pastimes and become wrapped in them so that we cannot come out anymore. Yeah? So this is our process, and we don't need to go so deep, because this is too far. This is like, you don't want this. Then all these mystical powers and all this understanding of this mature world comes along with it, which is unnecessary. It's distracting even. We want to understand, okay, we're not a body, and I'm a servant of Krishna, and I want to love Krishna. This is all we need. Nothing else we need. And Prabhupada made it so simple. Chant 16 rounds. Yes? Any more questions? Or comments? Criticism? Was denkst du, wie heißt du nochmal? Patrick. Ja, erzähl mal was. Ja. Was hast du jetzt mitgenommen vom Vortrag?
Ja, viel, also war interessant. Ja, gerade, dass wir nicht unser Körper sind, aber wir sind auch nicht unsere Gedanken. Also gerade wenn das Ego uns zu sehr ärgert oder wir sind wütend auf was, dann sage ich mir auch, ich bin nicht bei den Gedanken. Das ist nicht meine Urform. Daher hätte ich vielleicht noch eine Frage, auch zum Ego. Am Augenblick des Todes, wenn wir unseren Körper verlassen. Ich habe mal gehört, das Ego sei auch ein Schatten der Seele. Was nehmen wir mit von unserem Ego? Nehmen wir überhaupt was mit? Wissen wir noch, wenn wir den Körper verlassen, wer waren unsere Freunde, wie war mein Name, wer war meine Familie? Was wissen wir noch in dem Moment, wenn wir in unserer puren spirituellen Form sind, wenn wir den Körper verlassen?
Also das erste ist, wenn, the first thing, I'll answer in English, okay? Yeah. So the first thing is that when we die, I tried to explain it before, we take the whole subtle body with us. We don't take only the spiritual body. Not only the soul leaves, but the soul with the subtle body leaves the body. So it means we don't become fully self-realized once we die. We're still in Maya, still attached, therefore they're ghosts, they're attached to their house and their family, and they're like, I don't want to leave this body. I want to stay here. This beautiful house, I built a whole life, I was building it, and they're like, oh, I want to stay here. And then mature energy says, okay, you stay here, have fun. So when we die, the linga sharira, it's called the subtle body, comes along with us. And part of it is the ego, the mind, the intelligence, and these things always come along. And the mind and intelligence, there's always the subtle, they're called, I forgot their name, but there are many attributes of the mind which are like samskaras or things, deep experiences which are within us. All those, the whole karma package, we take along with us to the next body. So, and then the ego, the very gross ego of who we were, or family, or so, this becomes very irrelevant. Once you leave the body, okay, you might be attached to it, but you also understand. You see, like, wow, I can live without the body. It was just a role that I played for some certain time. And then either you move on to your next destination because you're very detached, or become very attached and then you're still around as hovering as a ghost. So this is the different options we have. And then once we take birth, it's like such a traumatic experience that we said in Bhagavatam, we forget it. But it said in Bhagavatam, when we're still there as a baby in the womb, we still have remembrance of we might have, if we did some spiritual practice, that we actually are not this body, but we are a spirit soul, and we should actually surrender to Krishna. And this is a very nice chapter. It's very mystical. How the prayers of the baby in the womb in the Bhagavatam. It's like interesting how how do the sages know what a baby in the womb is praying, you know? But they had this knowledge, and wisdom was passed down. That it's amazing that they know what the baby is praying in the womb. Like my wife is pregnant, so I know, it's like, I understand, like, what is he feeling now? Is he feeling comfortable? Is he praying? What's his experience being in this body, being captured in there? And there's some people actually remember the time in the womb. And some say it was a positive experience, some say it was negative experience. So it's very individual. But when we die, we take parts of us with us. It depends on our attitude. But usually, if you say, there are some people who studied this children who could remember the past lives. And their study usually came out that most people who remember their last life had a very traumatic death. Like they fell in a well and they died, they're drowning, or something very terrible. But it's like, wow. So usually remembering your past life is not something very nice. It's not that, yes, glory, and I can learn from it. Some spiritual healers say, like, you need to know what was in your past life and you need to learn from it now, and then you need to evolve. You know, that is nonsense. We're not trying to get more and more entangled into this world. How about this? And then you were my sister, you were my father, and you were like, boo, and then we get more and more entangled. No, that's not the use of it. We should understand, okay, have had different incarnations, but now I should use the opportunity to get out of the cycle. I'm a servant of Krishna. So this is the use what we should take out of it. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's also one comment more.
Yeah, thank you. Please.
When we leave out the body, I think it's possible, we feel that we all humans, all animal, all living beings are connected. Like, not like just our family or friends. We realize all is one, I think so.
I mean, you see that it's not so gross anymore. It's like the subtle worlds are flowing. It's like it said the assembly hall of Lord Brahma is never the same, and it's even different for every observer who's coming in it. So it's like it's a flowing structure. It's not even the worlds or the existence within the mind. It's different. Like, I don't know if you experience, but if you're dreaming, everybody of us are dreaming, but usually you have a certain place where I always go, isn't it? Sometimes I dream of Vrindavan, it always looks a certain way. And I always go certain alleys down, and then I have different experiences. Or I like to dream of festivals somehow or other, doing some big kirtans. And then there's always certain scenes or emotions that always come along with it. So it means actually in your mind there's a subtle world that you're in it. So it's very flexible. It's not very static, the emotion. So once you leave your body, it's like it's not anymore hard matter and this, but it's very emotional. So it depends where you're being taken or what's happening. But you're right, and we see it, we take a bigger picture. Yeah, more comments, questions? Prabhu, I think you want to say something. Say something. Your realization, what did you take from this lecture?
That's like a
Hare Krishna.
no, that's like a man concept of human body. Like soul is like a driver, and body is like a car. So, where like a car, you can say is a material world. So if you have good cars, you can be a good driver also.
Can have a good ride, huh?
Oh yeah, so you have a good ride. For like a material world, your body needs food, your exercise, everything you need. That's one. So if you have proper service of car, you will have less chance to be accident. And the same thing is for soul. Soul's main energy or his main food is like not material things. It's like energy. So that energy connect with like you devote some energy. Just like Krishna is the biggest energy there. So you need to be focus on that one for. And driver, if driver is not happy, if you give him Lamborghini, he will accident.
Yeah.
So the main point, driver should be happy. Like you can see for a kid, cycle is enough.
For a kid?
A cycle is enough.
Cycle is enough, yeah, okay.
So if you make soil total pure, everything will be happy.
Okay, thank you. Very good comment. Yeah, the thing is, it's really that we as a soul, we need to be happy. We can't take care of the car. We need to take care of the car. We have a body. But if we take properly care of the soul, whatever car we have, we will be happy. And of course, like you say, we need to tap to the energy, to the big energy. It's not only that we need to tap to a real energy, we just need to be ourselves. Because we are trying, like most of us, we are just taking care of the car. And we should be servants of Krishna, really act and devote our lives to Him. This is actually connecting us to Krishna. This is pleasing to our heart. Anytime you do some seva or you give some donation, you feel like your work and your life is being transcendental. It's being like purified. So the more we connect, but also we serve the Lord. Because there's Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam. Yeah, but I want to say something else. Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Nadi Radhi Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So Krishna is the Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the energy He's the source of all sources. Some call Him Krishna, Allah, Adonai. It's the one source. So we need to connect to it. And when we connect to it, it's so powerful, it's so pleasing. We don't need anything else. We don't take care what car we have or how we're doing this material. It's not so relevant. The main thing is that we are connecting to Krishna. Therefore, we recommend to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. We have this Japa Mala. We have there hanging here. You take a mala and then chant at least 1 round a day. We, as devotee sadhakas, we try to do 16 a day, which is very nice. I can recommend. But at least 1 round. Chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande.